2, 3, come on.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. So many Ugandans these days are sending children to study abroad in boarding school, where in our time we used to go to the Gayazas, Budos.
If you look at Uganda in its last 20 years, one of the key issues that you begin to see is Uganda's education system by and large has moved away from what it used to be. And the answer to your question simply is one word: standards. What am I talking about when I talk about standards? When you take your child to school, you expect them to learn. And how do you know that they're learning? You look at what standards the school keeps. So if you find a class of 100 students with one teacher, what is the possibility that your one child in that school, in that class of 100 students will learn? Many of these schools abroad, what they have over the Ugandan schools is simply standards. You go to a class which has 40 students, you'll find 2 teachers. That ensures that the child is learning. Here we have moved away from standards, so you can find a class with 100 students, and there's absolutely no way that my child, who is younger than most of their classmates, will learn. So what has happened now, because the world is becoming a global village and you want your children to be able to survive and fight in that market, you say, why should I take my child where I'm not so sure they will learn, and I waste all that money so that when I get to a level where they have to compete with those children who were taught in schools which had standards, you make the choice now and say, look, it might not be my best choice, but if I'm looking for standards, I'll go where the standards are. So if Uganda wants to stop its parents from taking their children abroad, look at the schools and say standards. Standard things are simple. When we went to Budo, we knew there was acting, there was music, there were games, there were sports, there was housework, there were so many things that give you a holistic education. Right now, most of the schools are focusing on A's, B's, and 1s and 2s and PLE. And to me, that is not, because what will that do to you? Will that A give you money? No. It will be the network you have created and the things you know how to do. And without following standards or adhering to standards, how do we know that the children are learning? I mean, I've been an employer for very many years. I can tell you as a fact that the children that are coming out of a lot of our education institutions these days are by all means below par. You can give them very simple assignments, write a letter, they fail. And we might think I am joking. Then you hear these Uwezo reports which come out every year, and they say the Ugandan student in P7 reads at the quality of a P1 in other countries. And we can say, yeah, those guys are making noise, but they may have their facts. So we are saying that if you want to have a quality education, you have to look at the standards the educational institution that you're taking your child to is adhering to. Once you're comfortable with the standards, then by all means take them there. If you're not comfortable, look for where the standard will be.
Isn't it an expensive venture? Because my God, where do people get that money? For you, tell us about your experience.
Obviously, taking children abroad is expensive, yes, without a doubt. Mm-hmm. But there are some things that you can do to reduce that expense. Mm-hmm. Now, on an ordinary day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning, you will find me watching my children swim. The whole idea is, many of these schools have bursaries. They want sportsmen, they want actors, they want people who bring diversity to their school. Yes. So
and who can put their schools on the map.
And also they want people who will come and show the school in good light. If you hear that this person is a good swimmer and went to that school, most likely more and more people will come in and join. So many schools abroad are looking for people who bring out their school in good light. So much as people think that you go to good schools, you have to have good grades. Yes, you can have good grades, but you don't necessarily have to have the best grades. You just have to bring something unique to the school you're going to.
Yes.
Maybe you are a unique way of looking at things, a unique way of acting, I know people who have gone to places like Gayaza who didn't make the grade. But because they could, for example, write poems and bring in diversity. And so many of these schools abroad are looking for diversity. Our problem as Ugandans is we focus too much on academics.
On grades, yes.
And truth be told, you will not beat people from specific countries who focus from the time a child is 2 years old on academics.
That's true.
Huh?
China,
and they'll coach their child from day one, and they'll ensure they can speak all these languages. So how do you make your child unique? How do you make them valuable to a recruiter? They have to be bringing an interesting line of thinking, an interesting way of working, way in which, and then key issues. The child should show leadership. Leadership is important. You show whether you've been a prefect, whether you've been a pencil collector, show that you can lead. That is what schools are looking for.
Because actually if you can lead, that means you're an influencer.
Yes, they're looking for influencers. They're looking for people who will show the school in good light. For example, I have a daughter. She goes to United World Colleges in East Africa in Moshi.
Hence the jazz.
And hence the jazz I'm supporting.
Yes.
And I'm very proud of it. And the reason I'm very proud of it is she is on a 100% scholarship, which I believe she attained in her own right. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. She applied, she went for the interviews, and they picked her. What I can say is that in that interview process, you understand that what recruiters are looking for. Well, we had prepared her to answer complex questions and tell them things that we assumed they were going to ask. In the interview, the first question was they played a Beethoven tune. And they asked her, how does that music make you feel? That kind of question you cannot prepare somebody for.
Yes, correct.
And
it brings out
in answering that
creativity.
question, they show the level of breadth of their knowledge of things.
Yes.
So
what other kind of questions were there?
They asked them to come up with something creative in 30 minutes. And they don't tell you what. Then after you've come up with whatever you've come up with, they have to explain why you've come up with that thing. There will be no school which will teach you what to answer there. But I believe that the experience of the child growing up will give them the breadth of knowledge to understand that you have to be able to answer holistically.
Even the things you've exposed them to. I think another question I remember they asked them for that time was something that defines you. Tell us.
Tell us something that defines you. Now, there will be no school you'll go to that defines you. I know that everybody says when children go abroad, they lose touch with, they don't want to come back home. But in all honesty, if you think about it critically, currently the fastest growing economies in the world are the Chinese economy and the Indian economy. And what do those two countries have in common? For very many years, for the last 20, 30 years, the biggest number of foreign students in universities abroad have always been the Chinese and the people from India. So what was India and China doing? They were saying, we don't have these skills. Let's send our people out there. They pick those skills and they come back.
And apply them in
what we are failing to do as Ugandans is to make our environment at home or palatable or conducive to somebody who has studied abroad to come and help us grow. People in China, people in India have figured it out. And when you see their rich lists of people who have done well in India, China, you see many of them had a stint abroad, learned a few things that they're learning, and then took that knowledge back home and found and used that knowledge to improve their people. So when I say take a child abroad, all I am saying is that in some cases, what we are looking for is to have a child who will be able to compete at the same level or as bright people in any market. When you have the right papers, you will find that you don't have to prove yourself.
Yes.
You want to go to Canada, if you don't have the right papers, they will tell you to go and do TOEFL. TOEFL is an exam that shows the world that
Your
you can speak English.
in English, yes.
In Uganda, all our schools ideally
English, yes.
teach English. It's disheartening to ask you to prove that you can speak English. But if you have the right paper that says I did IB, I did IGCSE, and everybody knows what IGCSE is, whatever,
Yes.
then they won't ask you to do TOEFL because
Yes,
you'll
they
have
know
done.
that program,
Or,
yes.
secondly, when you've done, we have situations where our doctors go abroad, and many of them become nurses. So they can prove they can be doctors, and then they go through 8-10 years of trying to show that they can re-enter the system abroad. Yet, if you've studied, for example, you find doctors who studied in the UK and they want to go to the US, the shift is not as big. And all that is just about ensuring that the education we give follows international standards
Absolutely.
and accepted international standards.
Absolutely.
So that when our people say, this guy learned his mathematics, they don't question. Because the people who have gone before you have shown that you're a good institution. Places like Makerere are good. Many places you go and show a Makerere degree, in especially things like medicine, and they say, yeah, those ones we know. But many other institutions are not up to that level in keeping the standards to us. And therefore they have issues. And so when you're investing as a parent, you're saying that I want to give my child the chance to say that when I present my papers, the issue is not my papers. The issue is something else.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Huh? The issue is maybe experience. The issue is knowledge of whatever it is they want to do. That is okay. But I don't want my child to give their papers and say I want to be MP. And then they say, okay, now let's first look at the equivalence of this thing.
Let's first convert it.
Let's convert it. If you have IGCSE, you won't be asking, did you finish it?
Yes,
They'll say, okay, let's see, is the IGCSE authentic? Once it's proved to be authentic, no further questions.
Yes.
Huh? But you find people trying to convince you, you see, I did a diploma in, I don't know, sound technology, which is equivalent to this, what. And those are all of the things we don't want to experience. And so, if you're investing your money now, you want to be able to demonstrate that the foundation you've given your child will enable them to do whatever they want to do. When you want to go to a school abroad, all you need to know what a good school is just simply ask them,
Where are the alumni?
where are your alumni?
Yes.
Why these schools I have mentioned are strong schools is because when somebody asks where are their alumni, they can tell you there's this guy here, there's this guy in NASA, there's this guy whatever. And then you know that whatever the school is doing has a positive effect to the outcomes of their alumni. Now, when you have children who get super 4s and then get super A's and then 10 years down the road you ask where is this guy of his super 4 or 8 in 8 or quadruple A and you can't quite see the improvement in their lives as a result of this hard work they put in, then you know there's something wrong with the system.
Correct.
Huh?
Correct.
And then you ask yourself, is it important
Yes.
for the guy to get an A
Yes.
or quadruple A?
Yes.
Or it is better for you to say, you get quadruple B, but you'll be able to apply the knowledge you got in school to improve people. So for me, I look into that I am comfortable as long as a child is able to demonstrate they know they've learned something and they can apply it, rather than on paper you're the smartest guy in the room. Yet when you're told to write a letter, you can't write a
write,
simple letter.
Which is one of the biggest challenges
Yeah.
of children today, youth actually. Yeah.
So the things I look at. And so when you see parents taking their children abroad, all they're trying to do is say, okay, to me I just think it's a vote of no confidence in the standards
Yes.
of the Ugandan education system at this point in time.
Yes.
There are many things which can be done. When we were in the chitantes of this world, we had days when inspectors would come.
Correct.
And you'd see the teacher, the school is
Even
clean,
theirs, I
whatever.
remember, yes.
It was a big issue. Because those guys would come and their word changed the way teaching was done, who the teachers were. People would lose their jobs over the inspector. I don't know whether schools are inspected these days, and that's what you keep the standards at. So those are the things that we think are simple, and that's what's bringing our schools down. There are many years when our neighbors used to bring their children here to study because of our standards were high. We dropped that ball, and now our children are going to our neighbors because our neighbors have figured out that they can have
So
standards.
now when your children go to boarding school,
Yeah.
do you see them often? What happens?
One of the things that I picked from one of my mentors is we have our rules. One of the rules is my child, wherever they are, if they're out of the house, they check in every day.
Every day.
Every
And what do you
day.
mean by checking in?
Check-in, she has to send a message, she has to call, she has to send an email and tell us, this is what I did today, this is how I'm feeling today, and if there's any issue, you deal with it.
Yes, yes.
And that is, and I've seen it work very successfully with my elder cousins.
Yes.
And I think in my case, that helps a lot. Because a lot of these courses, for example, my elder daughter is doing something called IB, National Baccalaureate. It's a diploma. It's a very, very rigorous course.
Yeah, it's quite hard.
And you need to reassure them that even when they fail a paper,
Yes.
it's not the end of the world.
Correct, correct.
And as I keep telling you, it is the parents' interest in what the children are doing that propels that child.
That's true.
There is no successful child
That's true.
whose parents don't take keen interest in what
Absolutely.
they're doing.
Absolutely.
Your child will never perform well if you do not show that I care about what you're doing, one, and how you're feeling, two. So because my children check in every day, Oma, and I ensure if they don't check in, we shall send a message and say, what are you doing?
Yes.
How was your day?
You didn't
What's
call,
happening?
yes.
So we have, the good thing about things right now is that technology helps.
Yes. You can have a
My
family
wife-
WhatsApp group.
Yeah, my family WhatsApp group where she contributes.
Yes.
In my wife's day when she was in Gayaza, her mother used to make her write letters every week home. And then her mother would respond to the letters every week. So they would have this continuous communication.
Conversation, yes.
And that is what I think we need.
Yes, yes.
As much as possible, whenever possible, if we can afford, every holiday, she will come back, she will see us, she will know what's happening. I know many children get apprehensive, especially when they feel they've been left abroad
Yes,
on
that's
their
very
own,
true. That's
and nobody
very
cares
true.
about them.
And then they get into wrong company because they're isolated now.
Yes.
The school has closed, most people have gone off, and
Yeah.
they're alone.
I have a short story. My mother comes from a place called Kakumi. She never in her life thought she could be a doctor. In fact, when she was growing up by P3, P4, P5, P6, she wanted to be a nurse. But there was a sister or a nun in their school who took interest in her and said, you have the brains to be a doctor. And through that sister, she was able to move from Kakumiro, went to Namagunga primary school,
yes.
then she went to Namagunga secondary school, then she went to medical school. The reason I talk about my mother is that my mother right now is 74. She'll be 75 next year. But this morning I went to see her at her workplace. And I found patients outside her door. That's what a good education does. A good education means that it gives you a foundation to keep on earning for as long as you want to earn.
Exactly.
So while people argue that you don't go to school, school is overrated, I have my mother, 74, still working, and you still find lines outside her door because she had a good education. And to me, there's no other way I can repay my parents for the education I got than ensuring that their children, their grandchildren
yes.
get a better education than
true.
they gave me.
That's true. That's
And
true.
for now,
because
I
you know,
can-
by the way, even them when they were getting educated, their parents were sacrificing.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
They were taking all sorts of risks and doing the unusual to get them
She's
there.
a lady, they'll always say, why are you educating girls?
Girls
How are
at
you
that
educating
time,
girls?"
exactly. Exactly.
And now, because my mother was educated, I do not even think about it. My children, girls as they are, it's not even an issue. They have to get the best education because that's what I got.
Yeah.
And it is my duty to ensure that the ones who come after me, and I keep telling them that my children don't have to repay me anything. I don't want their money. But the only way they can repay me is to ensure that their children get the best education,
Yes.
a better education that they do.
And you know, in life they can steal anything,
Yes.
but they cannot steal education.
Exactly.
You know, they can steal property. You leave your children property, money, all that can vanish in a day or less. But education, what you empower them in the mind, that cannot be stolen.
Now, the other thing about taking children to good educational institutions comes down to one thing which I cannot underscore, the network.
Yes, absolutely.
I have people who I employ, and every day they can't understand how I get the people to do business with that I get. And many of those things are always a recommendation by somebody you met along your educational journey. Either at school, either at university, or either in the places you worked before you went solo. So when you go to a good school, which has equally high achieving people, most likely when they are looking for people to do business with, to transact with, they look for the people they know.
Absolutely.
And if the people you know have money,
Absolutely.
then by osmosis you will find that you have money. The kind of transactions you do are bigger. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
So while you are saying that, no, you see, I can get the same quadruple A, fine, you'll get the same quadruple A. But will those people who have the funds to fund your enterprise know you and give you money for you to use your quadruple A to go further? No. So what we are looking for when we look for take children to the best schools we can find is we are saying let these children go and create a network of people who expose them, show them things, show them, let them shoot for the stars. I have recently realized that while we focus on physics, chemistry, mathematics, history, economics, and literature, there are people who make money from music. The people who make money from archery, the people who make money from deep sea diving, and very good money, and they live a lot. And those opportunities are only met in good educational institutions.
That's true.
All these big universities, the one thing they have in common is you can pick whatever course you want, and they'll find a lecturer or people who will show you how to do that thing.
Absolutely.
And that thing will help you meet your dreams. If you say I want to be an astronaut, they'll say, yeah, we have astronomical studies, la 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 la. If you want to do baking, they'll say, okay, we can show you how to do the baking, but we can even show you robotic baking. So you're one step ahead.
Absolutely.
And the one thing that you'll have to understand is that I don't say this with disrespect, but in all honesty, a lot of the knowledge that builds countries normally comes from abroad.
Yeah.
So you'll find that China has grown, but if you look at the people who are running China and leading the way, the Jack Ma's and all these guys, they all had stints abroad where they observed things and they came and localized. So when I take my child abroad, I tell them every day that don't focus on going there to work. Go there and see
and study
and understand and bring that knowledge here and implement.
Yes.
And once you do that, you will not suffer. The problem with being abroad for too long is you eventually hit the glass ceiling.
Yes.
When you're at home, there is no glass ceiling. You are the glass ceiling. It's you who keeps raising it, and people cry to get to it. All I am saying is that if we do not invest in them, then the ones who come after that will even be worse off than we are.
That's true.
And so, in all we are doing, all we are saying is that when you ask me why I do the things that I'm doing, is that my greatest investment is ensuring that the people who come after me would have a better life than I did. And that is as simple as that. I don't want anything from my children. I don't want anything from my grandchildren. I just hope that they will try as best they can to ensure that the ones who come after them have a better life than they did. And the number one differentiator between those who succeed and those who do not, when everything is down, is the kind of education you got.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you're not investing in education, you will then realize that all these houses you build, all these industries you leave behind, they will just be sold because the children don't have the aptitude to manage and grow the businesses you leave behind. So if you are asked anything that we can do as a country, we should ensure that our children get the best education possible, given as great an opportunity to find themselves. If you might not be a very good person at academics, you can do arts, you can do music, you can do sport, you can do anything else. But at least the education system should ensure they're given a chance to explore those things. And so going abroad is about broadening the horizons and the ability and trying to find what the children will be good at, and that is it. Whether they'll come back here to work or stay abroad, all we are looking for is saying we're giving them the tools to give them the foundation, so that for them when they are 90 or 80, like Dr. Fauci in the US, they can still be working a government job and nobody's complaining that, hey, Dr. Fauci is 80. Why is he still in that job? Because he got the best education at that point.
Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day. Thank you for watching.